The Epoch Times CEO, Janice Trey, the Vice Chairman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly, Luis Figueroa, also Executive Director of Latinos for America First, Bianca Gracia, and sales coach, consultant, and speaker, Chris Cameron. The panel will be moderated by Bianca Rodriguez.
Buenas tardes a todos, and welcome to this powerful conversation that we're going to be having here at CPAC Latino. We're going to be talking about free speech and censorship. My name is Bianca Rodriguez. I am currently a political appointee with the Trump administration, and I am the former Deputy Director of Hispanic Communications for the Trump 2024 campaign. And I would say that I have a pretty keen sense of how censorship takes place behind the scenes, unfortunately, especially when it comes to newsrooms and editorial meetings, because I used to be as well a political analyst for a Spanish language media that I'm not going to mention. So, you know, it's kind of shameful to see how you would think that a lot of us that come from different countries, especially Latino Americans, fleeing from those type of communist tactics and regimes, that it still takes place here in America, right in our editorial meetings and in our newsrooms behind the scenes, hidden as propaganda. And well, I don't want to take up any more time, so I'm going to present really quickly our panelists. Of course, there's Chris Cameron. He's currently a sales manager, expert, consultant. And then, of course, there's Bianca Gracia, who leads Latinos for America First. She was also one of the pioneers behind Latinos for Trump in the early stages of the first campaign in 2015, 2016. That's right. Yeah, and so we have Luis Figueroa as well, who is currently the vice chairman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly. He's got a lot of expertise in the oil and gas and energy sector. And we have Janice Trey, who is the CEO of Epoch Times and who has an amazing story that hopefully she's going to talk about throughout this panel, how she was able to flee communist China and survive a slave labor camp in China. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to the panelists. And all right, let's see how we're going to kick this off. So I guess one of my first questions would be, you know, and you probably all know about this, right? There was a socialist who won the Democratic primary in New York City not too long ago. And my question, and this is open to any of you guys if you want to break the ice here, how do you feel about the fact that that's happening right now? How do you see socialism overtaking our country, and how does that threaten our freedom of speech when it comes to topics like gender, family rights, faith, and all those sorts of values?
Well, I can speak to that. Just, I think it's we're in dangerous times right now, and it pretty much lets you know what the direction of that party is right now and what they are advocating for, promoting. They don't even hide it anymore. They were hiding it before, but now it's wide in the open. And so this pretty much tells you what their agenda is, how they feel about our family, about God, and about what they want to do to this country. They want to destroy it. So I think everybody here who are business owners or you're in finances, you know that nothing is free. You have to work hard for it. Nothing is free. And so there's nothing wrong with charity work, right? But this is not charity work. This is the government. So we're living in some very dangerous times, and we cannot allow New York and California to continue to set a precedent in the way that government is conducted here in the United States.
I completely agree. And so to piggyback off of that a little bit, because I think, Chris, this would be a great subject for you to, elaborate a little bit more on. Why do you think we should defend capitalism, and when it comes to the area of businesses?
Yeah, as a business coach and consultant, one of the things that is absolutely paramount to protect is, one, freedom of speech, but also capitalism. I'll give you just a quick example. I have literally been trying to get here for about 25 hours. We got diverted and went to Birmingham, Alabama. I came from Salt Lake City. And then we finally made it to Atlanta. This is about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I sat there, and you'll hear from Ryan Lee tomorrow, who is with Wealth Outside of Wall Street. He and I were standing on the curb trying to figure out how to solve a problem of where are we going to sleep, how are we going to get to where we need to be. And I'm telling you, we saw capitalism at work completely. We have Uber. We have different ways that we can call different hotels. We can go and get what we need, versus I want you to picture other countries in the world where that doesn't happen. If you get diverted, you get something like that, it's not possible. Capitalism solves problems in so many different ways. And that's just one example that I had last night, but it's very, very important. I love that Grant Cardone was up here. He is a champion of freedom of speech.
Yeah, 100%.
And especially in sales. In sales, so many people are afraid to open their mouth and actually share what they have to sell. And we need to protect that fiercely because dollars follow value 100%.
And I think it's great also seeing leaders like you just mentioned, Grant Cardone, who just there's no filter, right? And I think that people nowadays, it's not just our generation, but I think just Americans in general, we really value people being genuine. And I think that that's what ultimately, right? I think you agree. It attracts more
100%.
business.
100%.
So I think that's great. I agree 100%. So I guess my next question, to kind of change it up a little bit, would be social media. So I think we can all agree that social media has become a little bit more of a public town square. And we've seen in recent years, especially with the last elections, how a lot of voices, conservative voices, were being shadow banned, deplatformed, demonetized for simply sharing an opposite viewpoint to what is considered, the leftist narrative. So I guess my question would be, do you think, number one, that the government should play a role in moderating social media, to whether it is to keep that from happening, or maybe because you think that there should be a little bit more control? And a follow-up question would be, how much more should we get involved in battling cancel culture? I don't know if Luis or
Yeah.
Janice.
Primero que nada, buenas tardes. First of all, good afternoon. Thank you, you guys, for being here this late. I know you guys been here for a lot of hours, so thank you so much. Thank you, Tony, Gabriela, Matt, and Mercedes, for allowing this event to happen. This is incredible, and this is what the Latino community actually needs. We need exposure, and we need a place for our voices to raise. So going back to your question, what we need is to empower more our C generation. Actually, we have great platform, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. What we need, instead of trying to be their manager or something, our generation, millennials and the baby boomers that are here, some of them, because I see you guys are young. So what we need is actually to be mentoring this new generation that is coming up, because they need to be out there speaking directly to their equal. So if we empower them, we give them more tools, more resources, there is no need for the government to be involved in censoring or protecting that, because we already have the Constitution of the United States, which is freedom of speech. So we have that. The only thing that we need is to empower them to be greater, is to empower them with resources, obviously, and with knowledge and experience. I see a wealth of experience here. We have to empower the next generation, so that way we can outspoke the left, the radical left. We don't need to censor them. We need to outspoke them with better tactics, with better strategy, because we have a greater and a beautiful message. Our message is the greatest message that we can have. The American dream is the beautiful message that we can have. We just need to place it more out there and have them be more comfortable raising their voices. Even if they get censored, they can keep raising their voices in other platforms.
So let me share that. The cancel culture. I'm the CEO of both the Epoch Times and NDTV. We have over 70 million followers on social media. What happened? When we report the COVID vaccine's side effects and raise concerns, as a matter of fact, we were reporting pandemic in China in December 2019, a few months before the world knew about the pandemic actually already taking place. Our subscribers, the readers who were traveling in China, they quickly changed the return flights and avoided the lockdown, and their relatives and colleagues will perish in China. And our readers outside China were able to get N95 masks at a reasonable cost at major drugstores, and bringing timely information could save lives. However, the big tech work with the administrations to censor us. And so give you some examples. we were demonetized. Our flagship programs, Facts Matter by Roman, Crossroads by Josh, and American Thought Leaders by Yang, all three Epoch TV flagship programs were demonetized, meaning you see ads on them, but we did not receive a penny from the ads. Another censorships was in May 2023. We were taken off from Google News and Google Discovery, which means if you're not subscribers and you may not find our news, every day we produce over 200 original articles. Every month produce 5,000 articles. On the Epoch Health have generated 14,000 holistic health, including COVID vaccines and COVID side effects and all those. Why they're trying to censor you from getting the informations? Because we're telling the truth. So there's a price to pay. But at Epoch Times and NAD, we are steadfast in bringing truth to you. Truth can save lives. And for us, we are founded by Chinese Americans who experienced firsthand persecution in China. Persecution through the Cultural Revolutions, the Tiananmen Square Massacre. You probably remember the tank man, the person stood in front of the tank, or the persecution of Falun Gong of a meditation, Tai Chi type of exercise, follow the principles of truth, compassion, forbearance. There was nothing wrong with them, but because they live in a totalitarian regimes. As many of you know, in Latin America, the censorship has been widespread, but maybe in a different form. Just like here in the United States, some of the media and some of the social media and the legal system are being leveraged in partnerships to create a censorship. So it's almost like America's against America, where you may not even detect the censorships.
So Janice, that was going to be one of my follow-up questions to you, because obviously you come from China. You're a survivor from probably one of the most horrible historic situations that have ever taken place, and obviously they still struggle with communism to this day. But I mean, so I know you were already touching on it, but what other tactics do you see taking place that remind you of that regime in China here in the United States? And do you think that we're still at a point where we could, save our country from falling to that?
Absolutely. As a survivor of the forced Chinese labor camp, I was a child laborer simply because my parents were college graduate engineers, and we were sent to a very remote area. I grew sugar cane to finance the school. I picked crops from the crop fields every day after school. And the reason that I could be in front of you was a miracle, and I'm committed to give a voice to the voiceless. And that's what Epoch Times and NDD TV are committed to do. And the transnational repression happened on American soil is actually very extensive. As a matter of fact, Xi Jinping specifically ordered in October 2022 to export the persecution of Falun Gong on American soil. A peaceful meditative exercise that practiced in more than 115 countries, thousands of proclamations. In fact, U.S. Congress have passed Falun Gong Protection Act, and there's a act that is right now in the Senate, and so you can encourage your senators to vote for it. The repression happening on American soil. Give you examples. Shenyang Performing Art is a world-class dance and music company reaching 200 cities, 1 million audience a year with the absolutely most beautiful experience, showing China before communism. It's an American company, the fastest growing American companies. So the tactics they have done was using bomb threats. For example, at the Kennedy Center, President Trump is the chairperson of the boards of the Kennedy Centers. And they have a bomb threats on the cold winter and to get people evacuated from the theaters. Imagine in the cold weather. So this is some of the tactics. Me personally have experienced personal attacks just right before I had to Freedom Press to give a speech on censorships. I was attacked outside my office on my way to home. And in Florida, I have the experience of the rental car of the tire was put in a huge screw such that the tire pressure dropped to 8 on highways because they don't want me to speak up on the transnational repression on American soil that's happening every day. So what you need to pay attention to are people who compromise, and they could be people around you that you may not notice, and they may not look like Chinese because many, through cohesions, through honey traps, through all sorts of tactics. But what's most important is speaking up, because evil most afraid of people speaking up. Just a small candle can light up the entire dark rooms. And for people who live in the totalitarian regimes, we have a chance to end communism together. Let me share with you the book, the 9 commentaries of the Communist Party. Since its publications, it has inspired 448 million Chinese withdrew from the Chinese Communist Party membership and its affiliated organization, kicking off a peaceful transformation towards a non-communist state. For 5,000 years, there was no communism. You can do the same in countries or relatives that you have who are subject to communist influence. And the book that we published by Epoch Times, The Spectre of the Communism Ruling the World, systematically illustrates that how communism, socialism, is infiltrated into every facet of a society, maybe in the name of Confucius Institute to teach Chinese, but actually exporting the Chinese propaganda. And today it happened to Shenyang Performing Arts, tomorrow maybe happen to Boeing, happen to other US companies. And that's very important that we are not stay silent. What evil want is for us to be silent.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right.
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
mean, thank you so much for sharing with everybody your story, because it is so powerful, and continue doing the work that you're doing because it's making a difference. And so I know it's a little hard to roll on from this, but I did want to ask you, Bianca, because, you know, staying back in I guess we could say the grassroots, right? The beginning, the root of everything. And with your activism, how have you been able to see the fight, or what would you say would be like the biggest advice that you would give, not just Latino Americans, but Americans in general that maybe are struggling to find their footing, you know, with speaking out and being able to stand proudly for what they believe in and defending their values?
Great question. So I don't know if y'all figured out, but she's Bianca and I'm Bianca
With a V and with a B.
with a B. So that's a great question. You know, being one of the co-founders of Latinos for Trump, I decided to speak out. I was a stay-home mom, raising my kids, homeschooling my kids. And my husband was in law enforcement. My brothers were veterans, and my husband was a veteran. And they were very attacked under the Obama administration. We had a lot of law enforcement officers being murdered. And so I decided to speak out because I just thought this was America and you had a right to speak out. But I became very censored just because I supported President Trump. And so through the grassroots activism, I found that the more that we spoke out, that I was finding more and more Hispanic, Latino, Mexicans, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans that were for liberty and freedom, that were for advocating and wanted President Trump. But we were very censored. I lost my Twitter, but my Twitter page, you couldn't find me on social media. People would say, I don't see anything that you post. And I couldn't really believe that this was happening to me here in America. So being very censored, but I'm going to leave you with, or not leave you with this, but I want you to know, as Latinos, what this communism, socialism, Marxism wasn't expecting was that they didn't know that they were messing with Latinos. We have a backbone, somos guerreros, and we will fight to the end. So when it comes to telling the truth, we pushed harder and harder and harder. And now, now almost 10 years later, I just got press credentials to report from inside the White House after being censored.
Wow.
No, it's incredible.
All
this
for freedom
administration-
and liberty, yes.
Yeah.
So this is what I tell you when you ask that question. You don't give up. You don't bend a knee. You don't compromise. You don't, and fear. You do never fear. If you are convicted and you know that you know that you know, you push forward. As business people, you don't give up. You don't say, oh, well, I didn't make it today. No, you get up the next day and you work harder and you work harder and you work harder. And that's what you do. You don't give up. You don't give in to fear, and you keep pushing forward. And it just takes one of us, two of us, three of us. You keep pushing forward until we all go through. And that's my message to you.
Amen.
That it's just it's incredible. You know, it's almost crazy to think that there were 4 years during this time frame since President Trump's first term where quite literally we were on the verge of losing some of our most basic rights and freedoms. Something like that, for example, it's very hypocritical to see a lot of people on the left now say, "Oh no, but what's going on with, let's say one of the examples with NPR, the funding." And it's like, "Well, we were talking about this backstage too." It's, well, first of all, why is the government involved in funding media when it should be nonpartisan and independent,
that's
right?
right.
So that's another thing, right? And I wish we had so much more time, but I guess I wanted to give at least Luis and Chris just like one final pitch to give everyone. Like, why should we continue fighting against censorship and defending free speech?
Well, I'll give everybody just something they can go research. There's a book by Ryan Holiday. It's called "Trust Me, I'm Lying." Anybody familiar with this book? It's Confessions of a Media Manipulator, I think is the subtitle. And I want you to think, and a lot of that is around business and it's around advertising, and that's kind of my specialty. But understand, it's very important for us to see the tactics and the strategies that they're using so we can recognize it and call those things out. So I would say go look at that and actually start to recognize these things and call people out for those things, because especially when it happens in government and our voices are silenced, we can't make the difference. And so we need to speak up and call out the bad behavior as well.
That was
No,
great.
thank you so much.
It has been a great panel. And let me close down with this, and I want to be very, very clear. If we keep silence, maintain silence, we are surrendering. We cannot surrender. That's what they want. They want us to surrender. What we're building is not a moment, it's a movement. We don't care about the number of followers. We don't care about that. What we care about is the number of new leaders, what the new generation is going to do for our country. It is time to raise our voice, to speak clearly, y vamos a darle durísimo a la izquierda. No se queden callados, denle para adelante. Gracias.
Amen. Okay, I guess I'll give just my own quick brief thoughts as I'm closing out this panel, because this panel has been great. I want to first thank all of you for your incredible stories, your inspiration. I think we have right here, and not just up here on stage, but in this room, we have a room full of just amazing leaders in all aspects of this country, whether that's in business, whether that's in politics, just everything. And I'm really inspired by what everyone has been able to do and accomplish and being here. Thank all of you for being here, for getting together and sharing with us in this very special historic occasion. And hopefully it'll be the first of many CPAC Latinos to come. But yes, I think to remember, President Reagan, he once said, like, freedom is never more than just one generation away from extinction, and we have to, it's not inherited in our bloodstream. We have to fight for it and protect it constantly. And I hope that we're able to all walk out of this room and continue to remember that and continue to pass on these values and continue to fight for free speech, our freedom to express ourselves, to speak, to dissent, to debate, to be heard. Because in this country, being the leader of the free world, if America falls, the rest of the world falls. And so we have to continue to protect that. And I think I'm confident that every single one of us in this room is going to continue doing that. So thank you again. Keep using your voice and enjoy the rest of this conference.
Gracias a todos.